Sometimes it feels like the noise has settled deep into everything around us. This is 10 Better Minutes, a place where recent moments from the world remind us that balance is still possible. This episode shares a few stories that quietly reflect kindness and connection without overlooking the challenges. For the next few minutes, you'll hear about the softer edges of everyday life that often go unnoticed. To begin, there is the story of a 92-year-old man named Gilbert Martin, who has spent 6 years spreading warmth each weekday at a Chick-fil-A in Wilmington. At 92 years old, Gilbert Martin, known as Mr. Gill, still needed a purpose that would carry him through the week. In Wilmington, North Carolina, on Oleander Drive, he shows up Monday through Friday to work as a host at Chick-fil-A. While many people his age are fully retired, Mr. Gill wanted something simple and steady, a routine where he could serve people first. And he often met guests right when they arrived feeling weighed down after difficult appointments, just needing a friendly face and a calm welcome. For 6 years, he has done more than greet. He keeps the space tidy, cleans, restocks, and quietly makes sure everything feels ready for the next family, the next student, the next delivery driver. Owner Mike Perdue has noticed that when Mr. Gill is there, people leave a little brighter. Even his co-workers feel it. His kindness is practical. It is the kind of encouragement that shows up before anyone asks for it. When Mr. Gill missed a few days, what happened next surprised everyone. Customers noticed his absence. In the days that followed, people were glad he returned, because his warmth had become part of their week. Mr. Gill says he feels great, and he does not plan to retire soon. He keeps moving forward with one clear idea. If you take care of people first, your own days stay purposeful too. Sometimes the most hopeful moments are the ones that happen fast, in plain sight, and right when someone needs help the most. Here's a story from the Yellowstone River, where a teen's practiced skill turned into a steady rescue. On July 5th, near Graycliff, Montana, 4 people ended up in the fast current after a raft and paddleboard collision near a bridge pillar sent them rushing into the river. One man drifted downstream, clinging to a cooler and calling for help as the water carried him along. Jory Thomas was 14, a Montana ranch kid, and he had brought a 12-foot lariat for the trip. It was supposed to be for roping practice, maybe for fun, but when the river became the problem, he treated it like a job. He ran along the riverbank and reached a side channel that was waist deep. Then he threw the lariat. First try. The rope found its mark, and with careful pulling, he guided the man through chest-deep water until they reached safety. Only then did the moment widen, and first responders took over. What stays with me is how hope can look like something very practical. It is preparation meeting urgency. And it is the relief of knowing someone is out of the water and being cared for. Jory did not invent courage that day. He just had the right tool in his hand and the willingness to use it immediately. In communities near the Afi Mountain Wildlife Sanctuary, protecting wildlife is not only about having rules on paper. It is also about making sure those rules are carried out with steady care, especially for the rivers that everyone depends on. What changed started with the Ulam Women's Conservation Collective, launched in 2023, as the women began meeting twice a month to coordinate patrols and follow up on what they found. Their group watched for early signs of hunting, logging, and wildfires, moving quietly at dawn and sometimes even late at night. When they investigated suspected wildlife crimes, they worked with local governance, so the response was not random and not biased. One clear decision became a turning point. They raised the fine for river poisoning to 500,000 naira. They also mobilized when damaging timber deals threatened the forest and the water. The sanctuary itself covers about 39 square miles and was gazetted in 2000 near Ulam, where critically endangered cross-river gorillas live alongside endangered Nigeria-Cameroonian chimpanzees and drills. So the stakes were never abstract. By the end of this effort, women reported that rules were being applied more equally and river poisoning had stopped. More than half of the 16 villages around Afi have begun working towards similar initiatives, inspired by what the women in Ulam organized and kept doing. Quietly, trust returned, because enforcement became something neighbors could recognize as fair. On southbound I-5 near Fife, Washington, Tuesday morning, brought that kind of traffic moment where everything feels fast and tight, until one driver chooses to slow the danger down instead. Paul Jackson of Roy, Washington started with the good action of positioning his Kia Forte right alongside an SUV that was losing control. Witnesses reported the SUV was striking the concrete barrier repeatedly, and when Jackson looked over, he saw the driver looking unresponsive and a young boy secured in a child safety seat. In that split second, he did not just react. He guided. Cell phone video later showed his careful, gradual maneuver, the way he squeezed the SUV into a more controlled path, until it finally came to a safe stop against the barrier. And then the helpful work kept going. Jackson shifted the SUV into park, helped get the child out, and stayed nearby while others rushed in with support. Police, firefighters, and emergency medical technicians arrived, and that first decision to keep the vehicle from crashing bought everyone the time they needed. What I love about stories like this is how ordinary choices can turn into real safety. It is easy to think courage means rushing in loudly, but sometimes courage looks like steady hands, clear attention, and sticking around until the job is actually done. Trust in people, especially the ones who see trouble and choose to help anyway. After a year of living with paralysis, the hardest parts of the day are often the simplest ones, like taking a sip or feeding yourself. This story shows how careful science and steady training brought real, practical independence back within reach. Keith Thomas of Massapequa, New York, became paralyzed from the chest down after a swimming accident. After his neck injury, he could not lift his arms from his wheelchair, so drinking and eating depended on other people. In 2021, he agreed to a technology trial, and surgeons placed electrodes in his brain. Researchers then used a double neural bypass approach to route his brain signals to his arms and hands, while pressure sensors on his hand sent touch information back. For months, Thomas trained. The goal was not just movement, but everyday control. After 35 weeks of practice, his right arm strength increased by 86%, and his left increased by 62%. He learned to handle delicate items, even tasks like managing fragile eggshells. Over time, he could feed himself and drink from a cup independently. What stays with me is how the progress was measurable, but the meaning was personal. More than 2 years later, some sense of touch remained present, and that steady presence matters. It is a reminder that hope can look like repetition, small improvements, and a daily life that slowly comes back. As always, I have a wonderful tip for you to help with your mental reset and find more ease in your day. Today's tip is about seeing setbacks in context without pretending they are nothing. Here's the goal. You do not ignore what happened, and you also do not let it become the whole story of who you are or how life will go. Setbacks are real data, not a life sentence. They can hurt, they can be disappointing, and they can still be handled. When you feel yourself spiraling, try this simple check-in. Ask, what exactly happened in plain words without adding movie plot twists? Then ask, what part of this is within my control right now? Finally, ask, what would I say to a friend standing in my shoes? Not a pep talk, just honest support. Give the moment its due, then make room for what comes next. You might not feel better instantly, and that is okay. Context is not denial. Context is grounding. It helps you stay present, learn what you can, and move forward with less self-punishment and more practical care. Well, friends, we made it to the end of this episode of 10 Better Minutes, and I just want to sit with you for a second in that steadier truth it has been pointing toward. Even when the headlines feel loud, there are still ordinary people doing decent things, neighbors looking out for neighbors, and quiet moments of hope that keep showing up. It does not fix everything, but it does mean the world is not only what we dread. If you have a link to a good news story or a local positive moment you think more people should know about, please share it in the comments. This is Ian Rhodes with 10 Better Minutes. Take care, and I will see you tomorrow.